Hello and welcome to Sakas Devs channel. Yeah, my name is Philip and I'll be taking you through HTML forms and also HTML tables. So if you're new to this channel, please remember to subscribe, like and share. So in today's video, I'll take you through everything that you need to know about HTML forms and also the tables. So enjoy the video. Let's get started. Yeah, in our previous video, I explained about the HTML basics, whereby we discussed things to do with tags, elements, and also the structure of our HTML document. Okay, now in this video I will be discussing about forms and also the tables. Okay, so the aim of this video is to learn advanced HTML concept, including that there is forms, tables. Now things to do with HTML forms. HTML forms are used to collect user input. So we have key elements, their form, input, text area. We'll be doing that shortly through a practical example. Yeah, we have methods there. We'll learn more about the form elements, where we learn about things to do with text input, email input, password input, text area, drop-down buttons, and many more. I will also learn about the input types and validations, whereby input types we have email, date, file, number, range, color, and many more. Okay, validation attributes, we'll learn about the required min, max, pattern, max length. Okay, now and many more. The other thing we'll learn about the tables. Tables are just used to display tabular data in rows and columns. Yeah, we'll learn about the basic structure, whereby we learn about the table tr, th, which is table row, table heading, and also table data. Now let's do a practical example. Yeah, so first thing I would like us to do, we'll have to create a folder. You can just create it here inside my project file. We can call it let's call it HTML forms. Okay, now then at this point you can open the folder in command prompt. Then you can run code dot to open now VS Code. I would say that to code you'll need VS Code, which is a text editor. So I explained this in my previous video. So if you did not watch it, you can go back and watch it. Yeah. So this is it now. At this point, we can create a file here. We can call it. Let's call it forms.html. Okay, and then at this point you can generate basic tags for HTML. Then at this point, title you can call it HTML forms. Now at this point we'll create a form using the form element. Okay, now at this point inside, now we can have something like let's create an input. You can have something like an input text. Input type, sorry, this is input type. We can have a text at that point. Then let's call it, or the value, we can have value at this point. We can have name or something of that sort. Okay, now if you go live here to check your output, you'll notice that you have a value there. But if you do not want the value to be there, we can have you can just remove the value here to remain that way. You can just leave it at that point, and then you can see now you can just type here inside here and all that. We have said that we have several input types, but you can have something else like let's say for instance input type. You can just include something else input type like something like, you can see there are several. We have a button, checkbox, color, date time, email, file, and all that. Then you can have something like a file there at that point. Then now when it goes that way, you see now you can choose a file from your local machine and just upload it there. Okay, now the other thing, we can have another input. We can have another input type. can have something like color that point. Sorry, this at that point. Then you can see now you can choose color, can have you choose color and all that. Yeah, you can as well have something else like input type. Then you can have date, can have date, something of that sort. And then at this point you can see now you can choose from the date here, the here and all that. You can choose the here and let's see, choose a month and then the date. And you can see now it's being reflected here. Okay, now you've said that our form is just basically used to submit user data. Let's say for instance you're creating a simple form, maybe as a registration form. At this point we can have a heading. As you said earlier, you can have a heading here and you can say that registration, let's call it registration form. Let's call this registration form. Then you have now the form, the open tag for the form and also the closing tag. And then inside here we can have now the first input, which is input type. We can have text. Okay, now next you can just have another one at that point, input type, and then you can have something like an email type, it's email. Then lastly we can have something like button type. Let's have button type, let's call it sign up. And then at this point we can have we can call it maybe something like submit, button type submit. So if you fill in your details here, let's say for instance you have Philip, can have all that, you can click on submit and all that. Okay, so sorry, this is an email. I forgotten this is an email. So you'll have to you're saying that please include a heart in the email address. So you'll have to include, let's say for instance this is my email. Just using a simple email and all that. You see, now the form has already been submitted, but later on we'll be looking at form handling using Bucket, languages like Node, PHP and all that in a later tutorial. Include something else here. Let's say break line. This is break line. So to I want now to have to have the form in this layout. Okay, now the other thing we can do it just including some spaces here. Let's include another BR just to have a space in between there. Yeah, but for this you can do using things to do with styling and all that, which we'll be doing in our next tutorial. We'll start basics to CSS for styling and all that. I'll show you how to style that. We can have our form at this point that way. The other thing, you can include something else like an input, another input here. Let's say for instance input type, and then you can have something like radio. Then at this point you can have something like either male, maybe you're choosing from gender and all that. Then you can copy paste this. And then you can have now female, and then the other one you can have other. You can choose any and all that. So this is now what we call now the radio input. Okay, now lastly we can do something else. Let's say for instance we have input and then input type, can have something like reset. So at this point, now this one will be used to reset your form data. Let's say, for instance, we have another input here, then input type text. Okay, now and then you have your reset button there. So let's say, for instance, you insert your name there and you want to clear the form, just click on. So if you type anything inside that and then you click on reset, it will reset you even if you have how many input fields. So even if there are so many of them, then you fill your information there. You can just click on here and clear the whole form. So that's how now the reset button is used. The other thing we can have is the select option. And then at this point, you can see now you can choose any country here. This is now the select option. Okay. Now, lastly, let's have something like an input type. And then you can have something like text. And then at this point, now you can have max length. Let's say, for instance, max length is 4. Okay, and let's have something of that sort. And then at this point, if you try to fill anything, if it reaches 4 characters, then it stops there. You see, now that's it. If you use min length, it's the same. The first one is the name. We can have the name there. Then you can have something else like let's. So it will tell you that. You see now, if you try to submit, it will tell you that please length this text to 6 characters or more. Yeah, so those are some of the basic validation that you can use for your form. The other thing, we can have something else we call disabled. At this point now, if you have disabled, now you can see now you cannot type in this, you cannot type inside this field. Yeah, so that is it now. Disabled, you can remove it. The other thing, we can have a placeholder. You can have a placeholder, and then you can call it either something like a first name, something like that. So you can see now you have your first name there. This is a placeholder, and you can just type into that. Yeah. So the other thing, it's about there's so many things that you need to know about forms. The styling and all that we'll do it when we begin our CSS tutorial. We can talk about HTML tables, whereby we'll have let's create a file here and call it tables dot HTML. Okay. And now with this we can generate basic tags for HTML, and then at this point title we can call it HTML tables. Okay, now with that we can have our heading here, which is heading 1, and then you can call it HTML tables. Let's call it that way. Then so you can try to run. Let's go live. So you can click here to go live, and then you'll see now the changes have been reflected on the browser here. So we can have we can create a table. So to create a table, you need a table tag, which is the open tag and also the closing tag for table. And then at this point, you can have something like a table row. Table row. At this point, we can have 2, which is table heading. We can have name. Then we can have another one, which is we can just copy paste, and then we can have another one, which is country. We can have country. Yeah, so the next we can fill in the details for the name of the country. Maybe we can have several table data. So at this point you can have table row, just here. Then you can have table data. We can now fill it, and then you can have another one, which is We can have the country here at this point, whereby you can fill in the country. Yeah, you can have something of that sort. With this now, you can just copy this into several, and then you can change this one to something else like John. You can have something like US. You can have Mary. You can have UK. Nice. Now with this, now you have your table here. You can see down the name, the country, and also the table data there. You can try now to style it. Let's style it. To start this, you can have you can include a CSS here file. So we'll be getting to that in our next tutorial, the CSS. But you can try to have a simple styling here for the TR. We can have table heading, and then T data, and then we can have nice. We can have something like border. Let's have border 1 pixel solid. You can see now the border around all the table data and the table heading. And also we can have something called padding, the spaces around. We can have something like 20 pixels, something of that sort, and you can see now there are some spaces around here, the table and all that. The other thing, we can have something like the border color. This is green. Yeah, so and you see now the border have changed to green. And also you can increase the size of the border here. You can increase to 3. You can also change the border style. You can have dotted, you can have dashed and all that. You can see now the border have changed to dotted and all that. You can have something else like dashed, something like dashed. That you can see now is dashed. You can have something like double. The border will be doubled, and you can see now the border is in double. You can also include the other things like margin. You can set margin to 15 pixel. Now you can see now the messages have been reflected and all that. Yeah, so there's also many other styles that you can have for tables, but we'll be learning more of the styles and all more of the styles as we continue. Yeah, but at this point you can also have something else. You can also have another thing here whereby you can set the width to 100%, and you can see now the file now the covers 100%. Okay, you can also set it to 50%, all that, and you can see now the table now covers 50%. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.